Welcome, one and all, to the Ferret and Raccoon podcast. This is episode 197. I'm the Indigenous Owl.
I'm the Younger Raccoon.
We are bringing you the first podcast of August
2022, which has been a divisive year.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons. But as lots of you can hear, I'm joined by Owl once again for her 2022 debut.
Yes, I'm back.
The last podcast you were on was the end of the year podcast back in December.
It's been so long.
It's been half a year.
Yeah.
So lots of catching up to do with you.
Yeah, oh gosh.
I guess we can start with some of the things that you've been doing over the last 7 months.
Oh god.
Any picks in particular?
I'm just trying to think now.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. But...
No, it's okay. I'll try and think about it. Well, mainly I've just been chilling really, and I've been working, but now since I've got a more full-time job, I don't really have the time to do as much gaming as I used to. So I've just kind of put down the more of the back burner. But I have been for the last maybe 2 weeks, I would say I've seen 2 new films that came out this year. So the first one I went to go, well, I didn't see it in the cinema, but I went to go to a friend's to watch it, was Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah. So I went to go watch that.
Oh, that's on my list.
And I went to go watch the Elvis movie as well, I went to go see that in cinema, which I'm not going to go into depth of what my thoughts and opinions are on both of these films, because I like to save that for more the end of the year.
Fair enough.
I'll say, one thing I'll say is one is good and one was decent. I'm just going to leave it on the cliffhanger like that.
Fair enough. Yeah. Just nice foreshadowing.
Yeah.
For the elusive end of the year podcast.
Yeah.
And even to add more foreshadowing, I think that's going to be a very interesting episode, given how things are. But for me, I've kind of been in a similar situation. I'm currently off of work right now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's kind of been a mixture of both doing things, getting things done, and not doing things at the same time.
Yeah.
I've mainly been listening to music.
Okay.
Which has been good. Some newer albums, because I know when I did the best of the year so far, I didn't really have any albums to talk about, but there's actually some pretty good albums I've been enjoying, and I've kind of come back to a couple of times, which I've been really enjoying, like the Conway the Machine's new album, and I know Gospel's new album as well. 2 that I've had kind of on repeat, and there's a couple others which I need to go and listen to, like the new Kendrick Lamar album. But I think the fact that that's a double album is a bit not intimidating, but it's you got to find the time to sit there for maybe 2 hours. But I'm sure it's going to be a good album. But yeah, I'm in the midst of a couple of games, and I have games that I intend to play, but I've also just been buying a lot of games as well.
Oh, okay.
I think I added another 6 technically games to my collection, which is good. Because one thing I've been trying to say to a lot of people is the PS4 is on its way out in terms of support. So now's the time to start grabbing those games, especially those more limited releases. So definitely keep your eye on that. But moving on, let's actually talk about some of the stuff we have on this episode. And we've got varied stuff for the most part. And Owl, I believe you have the first trailer we're going to talk about, which is quite an interesting one.
Yeah, so the film that I'll be introducing is Pearl. It's an American slasher film serving as a prequel to the film X that came out earlier this year, which is directed by T. West, who also worked on 2015's Scream, the TV series. Watching the trailer, it kind of starts off with a 1950s US aesthetic. It seems to take place I don't know if it was maybe the South, but it's kind of just a small family that kind of live, mother, father, daughter, which the father is you can see he's very ill. So it seems like the daughter, well, mainly the daughter's kind of caring for the father. And, some of the scenes in the trailers, she's watching the TV, and it seems like she kind of wants to become somewhat of a singer or a dancer. And then it kind of goes on to that scene where she's talking to, I don't know if it's a manager or a contractor, and it's basically he's saying she will have to change her whole kind of lifestyle to become to take that kind of career. And it kind of starts to get a bit I'm actually lost for the word for it, but it just starts to get kind of a bit dark. And it's almost she's I'm kind of willing to make the sacrifices to follow this career.
Yeah.
And it starts to kind of, then she's kind of saying in the film, like, oh yeah, she feels trapped where she is, and, maybe she's kind of resenting the fact that she's caring for her father, as you can see in, like, the scene where she's, like, she's on, like, the bridge, and there's, like, a lake, and she's, like, wheeling him to, like, the end of the bridge, and then, like, the mum's calling towards her, and the, like, crocodile's ready to kind of just, like, ready to eat the dad and all that. It's just, it's like almost like is we meant to feel sympathetic for her, or is she like sadistic? I don't know. It's just like really like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the film's by A24, so it's got good cinematography. I like the fact that they're trying to capture that whole 50s like aesthetic as well. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the film.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's kind of unheard of to have a prequel film released the same year as the first film,
exactly.
and so close, and have it focus so much on one particular character. I think we should both also clarify we haven't seen X.
No, I haven't seen it. No.
I haven't seen X. It's pretty high on my list as well. I've heard good things about it, and I know a lot of people are really looking forward to this. But obviously, spoilers maybe, but it seems like it's going to be its own standalone film, and it's not really going to require you to have CX.
Yeah.
For the most part, so to which I would say Marvel take some notes. It's very unheard of in the industry, and if Ty West and A24 can pull this off, this will be like a big deal, and I hope they do, because I think the industry needs a few more shake-ups, not necessarily in terms of like this film, but just how you, I guess, continue to tell a story in some sense. And it is a very interesting film in a lot of ways, because like you mentioned as well, like, it's hard to say like how we're supposed to feel about this character.
Yeah.
And I would imagine us being outsiders, we don't know too much about this character.
Yeah.
We know that she has something to do with what's going to happen in X.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, anyone who's seen X probably already knows whether they should be feeling sympathetic or not for her, or maybe that's going to be changed or challenged. Maybe there's going to be a new context regarding X, because I believe that Pearl is in X. So at least I believe she is, because the actress who plays her is Mia Goth, who's a brilliant performer. I think her performance in this role is going to be fantastic, simply because she's got that creepy fake smile down to a point.
She does.
Like if you ever see guy or girl do that smile, you need to run, because that's not the one, basically. And as a slight correction, I think this film takes place in 1920.
Oh.
But I think one thing that they're going for is, it feels like a twisted take on a film made in the 1960s, which I think you are correct in that, right? Kind of portraying life in the 1920s. And I guess it's kind of making fun of certain stereotypes of, like, the girl destined to be the Hollywood star, and kind of like, well, actually she's a psychopath, which you could make commentary about a lot of these celebrities back then, today, being very psychopathic. I know they do say you kind of have to be a bit of a psycho to want to get in the industry and be successful, do whatever it takes. A good example is a fantastic film called The Neon Demon, if you've ever seen that. That's a very troubling film, which I think kind of has some elements of that aspect.
Okay.
But I respect this film's commitment to be and look old, because it doesn't... I think X was shot on film, and I think this might have been shot on film as well.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty good. I do love this film, and I definitely can see a lot of animal lovers hating this film as well, because I don't think very many animals are going to survive in this one.
Yeah.
Just that shot with that poor goose there. Yeah. It's just like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. And one thing I thought was kind of cool as well in the trailer is, it's cool to see like delusional fantasies of a person, but like in the realm of how their media looked. Like there's clearly a shot where it's her on TV as like the star. Yeah. And obviously that's most likely some kind of fantasy, not unless that's like the ending or something like that.
Like an interview,
Yeah, and it's like, that's interesting that she's put herself in that position of how TV or how stardom looks, which I think is a really cool concept, because that must have been really tricky to get that specific look and frame rate of that scene. And it does seem like she is aware that there's something wrong with her, which is kind of cool, but at the same time she doesn't really care, which is refreshing. She's like, I'm going to be a star no matter who's going to get in my way, especially when there are enough like things to push or drive her. Like she clearly doesn't like her family in the situation she's in, and I'm just so glad that she's not just the girl Joker. Yeah. Because they could have very easily gone down that route. And, she has understandable motives. Like, I hate my life. I want to be a star and no one's going to stop me. I think we can all get on board with that. The one thing I didn't like in this trailer was I think it was a little bit silly how like there was just a crocodile there, just conveniently there, ready to dispose of anybody's.
Yeah.
I was like, I understand it's the South and crocodiles are just all over the place, but I was
just casually waiting there.
Yeah, just like, oh, cool, lunchtime.
Yeah.
But really interested in this film. I definitely need to see X before I see Pearl. So hopefully it does well. Next trailer we have, I believe you're gonna introduce this one.
Pinocchio. I cannot get this guy's name right.
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro. There we go. This is a stop motion animation adaptation of the story Pinocchio. I'm not really going to go into any details of the story because everyone's probably watched it. Watched different continuations of Pinocchio. Mm-hmm. But I will talk about more of the design. So I feel like with the design of Pinocchio himself, it kind of it feels like they're kind of taking the design at how he originally looked in the original storybook that came out in Italy. So I was thinking I admire that they went for his original look rather than kind of going for the look that he was in I can't get my sentences right. The look that he had in the Disney continuity. So
and other examples where they really try and make him look like a human.
So I feel like I kind of admire the fact that it kept him just wooden and didn't give him like a doll face or anything like that. My question is though, I wonder if they're gonna keep to his original character, or if they're gonna keep his personality like the Disney adaptation of Pinocchio. Whereas like the original book, he was meant to be actually very like quite naughty and mischievous, whereas in the Disney one he was more seen as like a good noble boy that was quite naive, and he had that like Jiminy the Cricket as like his conscience kind of guiding him. So I'm wondering like what route will this Pinocchio go down? Will he be the more original character that he was intentionally meant to be, or will it be the more good Pinocchio? I don't know. So I'm kind of interested how this...
I have a bit of a theory, because in the trailer you do see that Pinocchio's father, he does chop down the tree, which I believe is right by his, I guess, previous son's gravestone.
Yeah.
And part of me thinks, because there is a very brief shot where you see Jiminy Cricket, or Obi-Wan Cricket, as I like to call him. You do see him, and I think he is in that same tree. And my theory that I think I said when this trailer first kind of got teased was, I was wondering whether Jiminy Cricket was literally going to be inside of him, given that tree that is now Pinocchio was originally his home.
Right.
Because there is there is an original tease where he is saying like, oh, this is a story that you don't know of. Like, you think you know of it, but you don't.
Yeah.
And he's inside like a wood house.
Right.
So I'm wondering if it's literally still going to be the concept of him having a conscience, but maybe Jiminy Cricket's like his sort of heart to some extent.
Yeah, that could be.
Because there's very few shots, if you actually look in the trailer, where you actually see Jiminy Cricket in the trailer.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if he's literally living inside of him to some extent. So I do wonder if they're going to maybe cross both things.
Yeah, maybe,
yeah, it is interesting, but this film is appropriately a stop motion animation, which makes sense given his wooden stilted movements to some extent, and his Guillermo del Toro's Twisted Take looks quite beautiful in a lot of ways. Like, it definitely feels like his own original idea, like the inclusion and I guess the implication that like the father's like son is deceased. And
that's true. Yeah,
possibly he's going to be reborn. Maybe through that is interesting. It's kind of bleak, but I do like that aspect. And everyone has a really cool design in this film. I think like from once again Obi-Wan Cricket's like mustache. Like Cricket has a mustache, and that spirit thing. Whatever that thing is, the fairy godmother, if that even is a fairy godmother, really almost demonic look, which kind of surprising because she does allude to the fact that like, you shouldn't really be here. So I wonder what's going on there. And Geppetto kind of has a pet monkey.
I didn't even notice that in the trailer.
Yeah, there's 2 shots where there's a pet monkey there.
Oh.
Yeah, I wonder what that's about. I don't know if that's true to the original, but...
No, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's true to the original.
There's a monkey in like 2 shots.
Oh.
So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously the animation looks amazing. Like, it looks on point with a lot of animations around, and I honestly can't wait to see where this story is going to go. I mean, they do kind of hint at the whale, so I'm very interested to see how... I know the whale has a name. I can't remember what its name. Monstro.
Monstro, the whale.
Monstro. Probably one of the scariest things ever. like the animation, if you haven't, for some reason, haven't seen the original Pinocchio film, the animation, I think, is awful. Like, I've never seen a fish so scary. Because, like, what? And it's funny, just the other day as well, I was, for whatever reason, a fun fact about the original Pinocchio, it being Disney's second animated film, that film technically flopped in cinemas.
Did it?
Yes, because of World War One.
Uh-huh.
No one was going to the cinema.
Oh, yeah, no, okay.
So, yeah,
sense,
it technically flopped, interesting enough.
Yeah.
But, yeah, speaking of Disney as well, this film is actually going up against Disney's ugly live-action remake.
Oh, gosh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So I do wonder what's going to happen in terms of critical response, audience response, because this film has a lot of hype, because obviously Guillermo del Toro, Shape of Water, Pan's Labyrinth, lots of other great films, kind of regarded as a bit of a horror director as well. But then you have the power of Disney, Tom Hanks is in that, nostalgia bait, all that kind of stuff.
We could have a discussion about it or something.
Yeah, I mean, they are coming out quite close to each other.
Yeah.
I know they said holiday, but given how Netflix is very vague with its release dates, where is JoJo? I don't know when this is going to release, but it should be interesting. This will be one to watch, I think. I'm looking forward to this one. This will be the second stop motion animated thing that Netflix has the license to. The first being an anthology called House, which I want everyone to watch. It's like literally a horror anthology done in stop motion with 3 different directors. One is about, they're all about a house. One singular house, worryingly enough. One is about a poor family moving into this house now being rich. Another one is about, all I can say is rats. Okay. And another one is about cats.
Right, okay.
And I should space that the rats can talk. They're like anthropomorphic, same with the cats.
Oh,
they're not just like normal rats that we know it. In case anyone's wondering like how that works. But yeah, I'm really interested in this one. Next trailer we have to talk about. We're kind of going to move into the whole Comic-Con that happened over the last few weeks. San Diego Comic-Con to be exact, because it happened now because, as we all know, COVID is no more. It's never going to happen again. I am obviously joking in case people get really upset about that, but a lot of people seem to think that. Unfortunately, most diseases don't just disappear.
Exactly.
The first trailer we're going to talk about, because there's a lot of things to talk about, but a lot of things don't really care about too much. First one we're going to talk about is going to be I Am Groot, which is essentially going to be a short series based on, I guess, everyone's favorite Guardian of the Galaxy. Not my personal favorite. Given by my name, my favorite is obviously Gamora.
Yeah.
It's actually Rocket Raccoon, obviously, but yeah, no, I honestly thought this thing was dead. It's kind of been in the works and floating around for a couple years, and I thought it was going to be more of a 2D animated series.
Okay.
And seeing that it's this, I'm a bit disappointed. Like, they've taken potentially a limitless concept and made it limited. It's basically Gulliver's Travels.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
And I'm just like, it could, it takes place in space.
Oh, okay.
You're just going to have it supposedly take place in one area? Like, where's the adventure in that? Obviously, Vin Diesel was voicing Groot. This is his career-defining performance. Obviously, he is, pushing himself to the limit on this performance, much like he does in every single Guardians of the Galaxy film. I've heard when he does, say the iconic lines, "I am Groot," he is just sweating. He needs to, come out through. It's very demanding. It's a very demanding role. They say it's probably one of the toughest roles to play in Hollywood. Because he has to say those 3 iconic lines.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm obviously joking because that's the joke everyone's making.
Oh, shame.
Because I don't think, but yeah, it's a joke because obviously all he says is "I am Groot" or "We are Groot" in that sense. But I mean, the idea of Groot being like a godlike figure to these like small like aliens is fun. It could be good if, let's say, it's like a silent slapstick short series of shorts to some extent, but given that like the alien creatures are like always making noise and that like their designs almost scream like cute and marketable, I kind of doubt we're gonna get anything besides a bit of a distraction that your kids will like, which I'm not saying you can't make a kid-friendly show about this character. I understand Disney is very kid-oriented. We're not gonna get a Marvel show where Spider-Man is beating someone to death. It's not really gonna happen. No, we're not gonna see split open heads. No, you won't. For the most part, the most you're gonna get is decapitations, which we kind of did see. But yeah, I think this is more the cynical side of me. When I look at this series and how like not great it looks in terms of animation, I just think of all the artists who are like overworked and tired, like making all these endless like sequences for Marvel, and I'm just like, ugh, did this really need to be a thing? I mean, do you have any comments on this? Because I know you're not massively, I guess, into Guardians of the Galaxy.
No. But you know what? I actually watched I think 2 seconds of the trailer and I came off it. I was like, this is reminding me of Minions so much. I just had to come off it.
Oh, that's a really interesting comparison.
I was like, ooh, I'm getting Minions vibes off. If not,
so
clicked off.
So with the Minions reference, is that more from Groot or the little alien creatures?
The little alien creatures.
Okay.
Yeah, not so much from Groot. Just the little alien creatures. I was watching like, okay, this is interesting. I thought this looks cool. And then after, when I started getting the vibes, I was like, yep, turn off. Came off. Next trailer.
Yeah, it's not a good vibe. Maybe that might have been the case, because I know, much like I made that joke earlier on, most people haven't really said anything about the trailer other than, oh, it's Vin Diesel doing the best performance ever. So maybe the show is kind of maybe already being written off as a joke. I mean, I don't particularly think the animation is that good. I feel like, it is one of the situations where you do see spotty animation within Marvel, given how much money Disney have, and it's like, well, that shouldn't look that rough. And I think the series probably would have benefited from actually being in animated. Just take a different art style direction. One thing we can't really talk about because it's not really a trailer is they have an animated series for Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur.
Oh, okay.
Which is an interesting combination. She's a lesser superhero. She's basically a child she wants to be a superhero, but she has like this red dinosaur that's kind of like her accomplishment.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they're doing an animated series, and if the Groot series had an art style like that, I think that would have really worked. It kind of seems to take inspiration from another really good artist called Scooty Young, who does like very more comedic, small versions of Marvel stories, and that he did a comic called I Hate Fairyland, which somebody should go look up. But you've probably seen his art style. It's quite iconic to some extent. And that show looks great, but it's too much talking in this. And I feel like it's almost I Am Groot might be the reverse of this, where there's maybe not a lot of context. Like, you're just watching this and going, oh, isn't Groot cute? A lot of people find him cute, which is fine. But, Groot's killed people. Just, want to remind people that. But, yeah. Next one I'm going to talk about. I can't remember if I was going to cover this one or you.
What was the next trailer, actually?
It is going to be Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
I can echo off what you want to introduce it. Yeah, I'll echo.
Although technically it should be screamed Wakanda Forever, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want, people to go deaf, of course. But yeah, I'm just going to be blunt with this trailer. What the hell was going on? Like, the way it's edited and the nonsensical pacing makes it feel like an experimental art film that you're not supposed to understand. I get that they don't want to spoil everything, which is a contradiction given what's in the trailer. And I understand that you want to make it vague, you want people to be excited, speculate, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just so bizarre. I can't get behind something I have no idea what's going on, especially when you're showing me established characters and references. And I'm just like, what? Like, and I think probably the other problem I have with this trailer, and I guess the whole film in a situation, is I find it a bit disrespectful that they're kind of glorifying Chadwick Boseman's tragic passing for manipulative feels, all while like barrading and kind of bombarding you with all these teasers and all these characters. Oh look, it's Ironheart, she's going to be the new Iron Man, and oh look, it's the new Black Panther. Oh, is it a girl? Is it a guy? Who's it going to be? As if they're almost trying to make you forget about the fact that he was Black Panther. Quickly, moving on. Look at all these references. Get excited. And it does come across as Disney doesn't care about his passing. And I know they don't, because the moment he did pass away, it was get ready for Black Panther 2.
I didn't actually know that.
Granted, they didn't phrase it like that. But,
yeah, just...
Wow. And here's the thing. I'm not saying you have to cancel that franchise because one person passed away. I understand it's a business. I understand contracts were made. I understand that by doing so, you could be causing lots of other issues that could negatively affect other things, other plans, other people. I get that. I do understand that although it's upsetting, the world keeps turning. But I still think a little bit more leniency and a bit more respect, or maybe just doing something completely different. I really don't think anyone would cry if Disney said, we're not going to do Black Panther in honor of Chadwick. I don't think anyone will be that upset. Because personally, in my opinion, I don't think the first Black Panther film was that good. I thought it was actually awful in a lot of regards. I thought it was probably one of the worst, in my opinion. And I know when you say that, it's obviously, you're racist, you're sexist, how can you say that? That's immediately the defensive argument that people like Marvel do prey on. That's why they unfortunately do certain things and certain marketing ploys to kind of have people from Twitter kind of come in and come to their defense. It's if you want to essentially be untouchable in this industry, make sure someone transgendered, gay, and black is in your media, and you are untouchable no matter the quality of your thing. You do see it a lot of the time, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't really have anything much else to say other than I find this trailer to be very confusing. Okay. It is a bit bizarre that they focus so heavily on, teasing Ironheart, which is Riri or whatever she's called. She's going to be the next Iron Man to some extent. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the next Black Panther is his sister or someone.
I don't know, yeah.
I don't know.
If it's gonna, yeah.
I don't know who it is going to be. To be honest, I don't really care, but because I'm not seeing this film. I know they showed off the guy who swims, the submariner guy or whatever he's called.
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
Nemo or whatever. I don't know. I've never liked that character. He's a guy who swims. I don't know. He's in this, and then obviously there's other characters that show up, and I'm just like, I've talked a lot about this trailer. Al, do you have anything to say about this trailer?
It's like I feel like my opinion is going to be like quite like in contrast. I feel like this film is going to be more of like more of a heartfelt film. I felt like when I was watching it, I don't know. I like the little mural they did for Chadwick Boseman. I appreciate that they did that. But I do feel like this film is going to be like a time skip. I kind of feel like almost with like the new Black Panther. I don't know. I kind of when like the whole scene where there was like a new baby born. I don't know if that was going to be the new Black Panther. I'm not too sure, but I kind of feel like it's going to be more of a generational time skip or something like that. But I think the film. I don't know. I feel like the film was kind of going to revolve more around the Queen, the sister, and the other character, the other female lady, lead lady that was in it as well. But I forgot her name.
I don't know.
I can't remember her name. But there was one scene in particular in the trailer that I felt like where the actress put like a lot of emphasis when she said like her family is gone. I felt like when the actress did it, like she put a lot of emphasis in that. I felt like it was quite a powerful like statement that she put. But also as well, like, and what I liked as well with the music, I like the fact that they transitioned from the song No Woman No Cry to Kendrick Lamar's Alright. I quite like the transition of that, which was quite interesting. But yeah, I feel like this film's going to be more of an emotional film, like kind of like, I guess, Avengers Endgame. I feel like they're going to try and go for the more emotional film for this film. But yeah, that's all I had to really say about it. I probably will go watch it because I did go watch the first one just to see how it is. But I know a lot of people are kind of on the fence with this film as well. But yeah,
I think the criticisms I've seen, which obviously a lot of my criticisms are not the same. I'm not one of those kinds of people who are, actively against this film, or a lot of these racist, sexist people who are like, oh, woman can't be Black Panther, black people, this kind of rubbish. That stuff can F off as far as I'm concerned. I'm not really interested in that stupid politics. I'm more interested in, or more upset more about how are they going about like this film and its context, because in some sense I can see it as being slightly manipulative, because if Chadwick didn't pass away, would we still have got the same film? Probably not.
No, probably
it
not.
Would have been an action film, and I guarantee you this is going to be an action film, because the CGI fight scene with the main villain has already been done, which is a fact a lot of people don't seem to know about Marvel films, is that's actually the first scene that's done, is the CGI final scene.
Oh.
Yeah. The fight scene is always done first, and it's just the director comes in and everyone else fills their place.
Right.
A good example is how when the two main villains in Black Panther, when they're fighting, you don't see their face. Yeah, because that scene was done before casting.
Right. Okay.
That's why. Because they are a business and they have a plan.
Right.
Much like this film has a plan and it needs to set up for more other films. Hence why you see so many other characters. I mean, I understand. I'm not one of these people who, at the same time, who are like, if you like the film, you like the look of it, shame on you, you're bad, I don't like you, and that kind of stuff. There are people like that, unfortunately, who get really upset when people like or dislike something that they like or dislike. Yeah, and I think that's honestly pathetic at the end of the day. It's media, it's fiction. you need to get over yourself for a lot of regards. But I think a lot of the points you do raise are, I think some points I think I maybe, didn't address as much. But yeah, it is interesting. But I think your idea of a time skip is interesting, given that if they are going to do a time skip, like, what are we going to see? What are we not going to see? Because there's certain things that we now technically can't show.
Right.
Like, what has happened to the family?
Yeah.
Is that something we can theoretically show? I don't know. And if we can't show it, that could potentially weaken the film and weaken her performance and her line there, because she may be saying she's lost her family, but we might not see that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
But that's why I say it's going to be a slightly more divisive film to some extent. But let's do one more superhero film to some extent. It's going to be a quick one. That's going to be for Shazam, Fury of the Gods, which is, I guess, the next Shazam film. The first one was pretty good. It was a little bit more comedic, and it was definitely more of a, I guess, turning point for DC, because DC's kind of struggling, or was struggling to some extent. They didn't really have an identity. They were never sure if to go in their own direction or just copy Marvel, and every time they did something, their fans would get upset. Marvel fans are very, very stupid and compliant. They're pretty much happy to just have things and see things. I think DC fans are way more fussy. They don't like it when DC does a Marvel, to some extent.
Oh, right, okay.
I think there's a lot of great stuff in this trailer to some extent. Like, the idea of, like, possible identity crisis with, like, Shazam, and obviously siblings obviously being, like, Shazam and being the Shazam family, and them not really being there for him and that kind of stuff, and, whether they really technically need to be there. I can see a lot of great potential with, like, one of them trying to spin off and be their own character, where they kind of can't be their own superhero because they're still technically Shazam and all that kind of stuff. And, the villains being old people, I think that's quite funny to some extent. It's going to be quite funny to see them kick ass to some extent. But I mean, the comedy does feel genuine. It doesn't feel too forced. We see that a lot with
it doesn't actually.
A lot of Marvel films. I know one of the biggest criticisms, I haven't seen the film, with Thor: Love and Thunder, is that it's trying too hard to be a comedy. Obviously, that is what I have heard. I have not seen the film, and that's not my opinion. Which, that can be a detriment, because obviously if you're expecting Thor to beat the bad guy and all that, and you've got, a joke every 20 seconds, you're going to be like, but I don't know, at the same time, there's something feels really cheap about this film, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if it's a budgetary thing or the way it was shot, but it doesn't feel like a few $100 million blockbuster film to some extent. I don't know what that is. Maybe that was a directional thing. Maybe it wants to look like that. I don't know. But the other thing I was kind of weird about this film was I thought this film was going to have a different villain.
Okay.
I don't know who these villains are. I thought it was going to be the villain teased at the end of this first film. I won't say who it is, just for spoiler reasons. But that's a pretty cool villain, and I hope they haven't decided to get rid of that villain because he's a bit silly. But we'll see. I know you're a massive fan of Shazam.
Yeah, absolutely. Love Shazam.
What did you think of this trailer?
No, I actually thought it was okay, actually. I'm genuinely not a big superhero fan, but it looks like an alright film, to be fair. Yeah, it looks okay.
It looks okay. And I think that's fine. It looks a lot better than some of the other Marvel films coming out. Like, it actually looks like a film that you don't need to have watched the director Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League to understand what was happening at 47 minutes, 39 seconds. Who was that guy that appears in the corner? Who is that? It's the guy who gets a film in 2 years' time. Marvel is getting to that point where it's almost like I don't know if you know of a series called was it Haunting on Hill House?
No.
It's like a anthology series about like a haunted house and ghosts.
Oh, okay.
And one thing I find very funny, which has actually stopped me from watching it, is one thing that people obsess over is the fact that you can see like ghosts in the backgrounds of certain scenes, and people are like, oh my god, in episode 5 at like 25 minutes you can see like the ghost just standing there as the camera pans. And I'm like, are you watching the show though? Because all I can see you is going on clickbait articles going, top 10 ghosts you missed in Haunting of Hill House season 2. Did you see the lady with the broken neck? She's there. Look, what does this mean? I didn't watch the show. I just watched the video about someone telling me what happens in the show. I digress, but yeah, it should be interesting. Hopefully it does well, because I know the director, he's done some good stuff. He's I think he kind of got his start off with the, I guess, smaller horror film Lights Out. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
No, I haven't.
Cool concept where it's like when the lights go out, there's a monster there or a ghost there.
Okay.
It's got like a really great scene where it kind of plays with that aspect of like a woman just seeing something in the distance, turning the light off, it's there, turn the light on, it's there.
Oh, right, okay.
Good stuff. And he did one of the Annabelle films as well, weirdly enough.
Oh gosh, yeah.
The Conjuring Annabelle kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I remember that film.
Yeah, I think, don't we all? Everyone's favourite. But let's move on to the next trailer, and that is going to be for Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I have to say this straight off the bat: 2003 called. They want their film back because, like, we're doing this again. Like, there's been 3 Dungeons and Dragons films, and they've all been awful.
Oof.
And they have been almost comedically bad.
Really?
I think one was in 2000, one was in 2005, and one was in 2012.
Okay.
They've all been pretty bad. And this one's going to be awful. I know it is. As long as Hollywood is behind it, this will be no different. I will give this film some credit. The cast has some good actors in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people I do actually like. And some of the references aren't super painful. Yeah. But yeah, it's desperately trying to be Game of Thrones, but funny.
Yeah, it kind of had the Game of Thrones side, didn't it?
Which is fine. I understand. I know some people are going to make the argument, oh, D&D existed before Game of Thrones. It most likely inspired it. That's fine. But here's the thing. When Game of Thrones becomes the number one thing and you see dollar signs because of this popular thing and you're like, what do we have? And you're going, Dungeons and Dragons, let's throw a shit ton of money at this because it will be successful because everyone loved Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Loved Game of Thrones. So yeah, that's a key thing to I think is people need to remember. People really loved Game of Thrones. Go read the books because they're all good. But yeah, keep in mind. And I think I do have a lot of issues with this trailer in this film, and that is that D&D has like remained consistent and grown in popularity over like the last decade, and it's not because of the awful 2012 film that came out. It was mainly the fact that, where am I going with this? I think it's the fact that it's just interesting and it's new and you can kind of do whatever it is. And it's very strange when you take a concept that is basically make your own story in this established world, and then you go, well, we're going to make a story that's going to be the canon of this established world with no creativity, and we're going to play it super safe. Because the plot of the story is, oh, the bad guy has the thing, we need to stop him. Which is fine. I'm not saying you have to have a complex story. No. Like, what's that one film where they try and make the... I can't remember the name of this. I was trying to think of it. It's not Pi. You're not making the 2000 film Pi, which is a good film, by the way. But yeah, it's... And I mean, one thing that was actually quite funny and troubling was there's an interview by IGN who have just kind of just destroying themselves with each comment they make, where the co-director said that this film is going to be new and fresh, which for me is the kiss of death. Like, the directors and producers or whoever, they claim to be D&D fans, and I've made this comment plenty of times. Whenever someone says they're a fan of the original source material or that they're going to be faithful, we always know what's going to happen because they said exactly the same thing about the Netflix Cowboy Bebop TV series. And as we all know, that show was awful. Once again, keep in mind, they said they are going to be faithful. They are big fans of the original series, and they also said it's going to be something new with this series. I'm seeing a pattern. Are you seeing the pattern as well, Al?
Yeah, I certainly am.
Got to get my magnifying glass out for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. If they were real fans, they wouldn't be trying to modernize it for mass appeal. I'm not saying you can't do something with D&D, because plenty of people have. But, like, they've clearly never heard of the phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
No one was begging for a D&D film. No one needs this. It's not going to be profitable. It's going to flop. And I mean, it's just too CGI heavy as well. It's looking too fake.
Yeah, it does.
I understand there are some things you can't do. It's going to be a lot of hard work to make a animatronic or puppet costume of an owl monster. I get that. There's certain things. I'm not one of these people who's like, everything needs to be practical. I get it. But sometimes practical does help.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, the costumes look fine, I think. They look somewhat decent. They're not that special, unfortunately, other than the girl with the elf ears. She's the only one who really stands out, unfortunately. And I mean, it is nice to see Justice Smith in another film as well. I think he's a great actor. But yeah, we don't need this. And I mean, we have things like Critical Role, which is essentially a series within the franchise that does its own thing, and that's got on to be hugely successful, and it's got its own animated series.
Yeah.
We don't need a Dungeons and Dragons film, and it just looks. It does look great. It doesn't look great. I mean, I know lots of people. That's how they get you sometimes. They get you with the references and sometimes with nostalgia. I mean, there's a mimic in the trailer, which is the chest that's actually a monster. And I think people are like, oh man, this film would be good because they put a mimic in it. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. You know, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
If I reference, me referencing the fact that I noticed that Ironheart's going to be the next Wakanda film, doesn't mean that I know everything about Marvel now, does it?
No.
Because I could have very easily have read an article of someone going, oh, Ironheart's going to be in the film. But yeah, no, any thoughts on this? Because I know you're a massive D&D fan.
Yeah, bloody loved it, man. Bloody love it. But I went on the trailer. Again, 2 seconds and I picked off it.
Oh, Al, you're missing so much.
I know. I just thought, dragons. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But we got our last trailer, which is very much in this, a lot of same themes coming towards the end of this podcast. We got The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, which is a very confusing title because you've got a lot of the same words repeated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a broken record, but what the hell was going on in this trailer? Because, yeah, it feels like there's too many characters in this show. Like, I don't know who's a main character. I don't know who's just going to get killed.
Yeah.
I mean, the costume design is great, I think, but it's a little too clean. I think there needs to be a bit more grit to this to kind of, like, compete with Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what this is. It's a direct competitor to Game of Thrones. And to sound like a broken record once again, I know lots of people are going to say, oh yeah, well, Lord of the Rings existed before Game of Thrones. I mean, it inspired it. Yeah, sure, you can have that. But here's the thing. When you have someone maybe be inspired by something and do it better, you got to step up.
Yeah. You
really got to step up. And the interesting thing I find about this show is it's not even the show itself. It's the arguing regarding the Tolkien estates. Because the people who own the rights to Tolkien's work, they have been very ruthless and very vicious in terms of what they want this to be.
Right.
They want this to be the next Game of Thrones. They have on record said they want this to be the next Game of Thrones.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's what they want this to be. So the comparison of me saying, oh, it's trying to be Game of Thrones is not a joke. They have stated that. That is this show's inception. So when your intention is, we got to be like the popular thing, it's going to be good. Yeah, it is a bit problematic. And yeah, the Tolkien estate, they do have arguments because I think it is actually a family and some of them own certain rights and there's certain situations. And I think they have arguments there. Basically, money-hungry idiots who have no real worth and no real creativity. Because obviously their grandfather or whoever they are regarding to him, obviously very talented person who wrote a story that lots of people love. What have they done? They've signed contracts. I'm sure we're going to be in great hands. Because you basically just let Amazon Studios do whatever they want to. I mean, yeah, sure, there's some recognizable characters like that flaming demon thing. I don't know what it's called. The thing with the horns. And I know some guys like, have you heard of Sauron, boy? which kind of says something. It doesn't say boy, but he's like, you heard the name of Sauron? I think that's just a very funny line. Because it's like, oh, we're going to name drop that dude. I don't know if there's a prequel or what. I honestly don't really care. But I mean, some of the darker visuals were nice. There's a really nice shot where you see all these like creatures wearing like these horrible, like almost skin-like looking masks, and they're kind of like backing away as like I think Sauron's kind of coming in, and shots like that were nice. And I mean, I've never seen Lord of the Rings.
Oh, no,
and this series hasn't inspired me to do so. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure some people, I think people can be very fussy about the show because I've seen lots of people getting upset with the costume designs and character looks, and I find that stuff is very petty, but I find it very funny because to me it's like homeless people fighting over trash. It's like, what did you expect? I don't care. But yeah, anything you want to add? Because I know you're a massive Lord of the Rings fans, as you've just already alliterated.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Now, you know what? I gotta say, with my history of Lord of the Rings is that it's funny. I didn't watch the films, but me and Obsidian, we used to play the PS2 game quite a lot. I actually really enjoyed the PS2 game.
Okay.
But I forgot which one it was because there's a few PS2 games. There's one that we always played religiously every Saturday. Every time. It was such a fun game. But the films, I never watched them.
Yeah, I tried to watch one of them and I think I just ended up like fast forwarding through it.
Oh, okay.
I found it incredibly boring because I didn't really understand the hype and I don't know what was going on. Obviously, because I was fast forwarding, I didn't know. But yeah, anytime I've seen an actual good scene, I've never been able to get to that scene in the film.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of like rubbish in that, but I'm sure the films are fine. I know one of them is like still regarded as one of the highest grossing films of all time.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but I mean, yeah, like I said, when your direct competitor is a show that people loved, it is quite tricky because, you know, even the less informed people might just write this film and even Dungeons and Dragons as, oh, it's just Game of Thrones. I don't like Game of Thrones anymore. The ending was bad. I'm not going to watch it. You do run the risk of that because I guarantee you there are millions of people who are going to say that. Yeah,
they will be.
Unfortunately, the show, not the books, because George R.R. Martin is a fantastic writer. He's very talented. Obviously, most people know he worked on Elden Ring, and that was an insanely popular game. The show is tainted in a lot of regards because of producers and directors and other things. I mean, one of my favorite details from, I think, the season that everyone says is bad is the fact that there's like a Coke can in one of the scenes.
Is there? No.
Yes, there's like a soda can on the table.
Oh, God.
And I think there's another shot where someone's wearing a watch. That's how sloppy things got. Like, you'd think, given how high regarded that series is, you would have someone checking for these kind of things.
Yeah, you would.
I understand mistakes happen, and I'm sure even if Game of Thrones went on to finish fantastically, I'm sure those mistakes maybe probably would have made it in. But as I've heard many people make a good argument is, you only really notice those mistakes when something is bad. When something is really good, you don't notice whether a story doesn't make sense or if there's a mistake. I mean, there's a really good example in Back to the Future 3. Obviously, everyone loves that film, but there's a really weird scene where the kid in the film, he's like weirdly pointing to his crotch. People only just recently noticed that because you don't notice that because it's such a good film. Yeah, the kid is weirdly just pointing to his crotch in one of the scenes, but no one noticed that until like recently. So, same with the most iconic one in Teen Wolf. I'm sure everyone knows about that. Do you not know about that scene?
No, I don't know. I've watched the film, but what's the scene that...
The scene where they're in the basketball court and there's a shot of like the people in the crowd.
Yeah.
For some reason, there's a scene where a guy just whips his dick out and puts it back. Yes. You can see it. You can look it up. They haven't really removed it as far as I'm aware, but yeah, that's just in the film. No idea what was going on there, but they didn't notice that. Same with like Jaws. You can see a very famous scene where everyone is running out the water after they get attacked, and there's a guy smiling. Guy with sunglasses and a moustache. He is smiling happily because obviously it's probably like take 18 and he's just having a really good time. But you don't notice that because Jaws is such a good film.
Oh no.
Yeah, you get stuff like that. But yeah, I think this is going to be another problematic series. It actually starts in 2 months' time, so I can't wait to see the fallout of how bad it is because we can talk pretty much about how bad certain TV series have been recently, like of the Halo series, which no one likes, and Paramount insists on like trying to destroy every reviewer from talking about it. And I'm not going to talk about it right now, but the Resident Evil TV show.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Which I did not talk about on the podcast because I thought it was that bad, and it's that bad. It's contender for worst show of the year. I think a lot of people would say that. But yeah, we're pretty much at the end of the podcast. We've talked about a lot of very funny things towards the end of it. Hopefully you guys will go look up those clips, you know, as long as you're old enough, I guess. But I guess we'll end with the video of the episode, which is going to be The Legend of Pipi, which is a animated short. I cannot remember the person who did this name, but their name is obviously going to be via the link to it.
Yeah.
And this animation is way better than Dungeons and Dragons and this Lord of the Rings trailer, because it does kind of have a bit of a medieval and fantasy element, essentially roving around the I guess it takes place in a cat kingdom or whatever. It's hard to say exactly, but basically the king's daughter is kidnapped by a dragon and he summons the bravest knights to go and essentially rescue her. And Pipi, our hero, is a black, very small, bug-eyed cat, is essentially the only one who can save her. And he gets into some shenanigans. It's an 8-minute short. It's really good. It definitely balances comedy and slightly more grim stuff pretty well. As I guess one of the recurring jokes is that he comes across a lot of princesses in peril and he decides to save them as well. But it's not quite his princess. But hopefully you guys will go look up that animation. It's in the link in the description and the download link as well. Anything else you want to add to this podcast before we wrap it up?
No.
I want to thank you for being on this episode.
No problem.
It's been fun. We are recording, I should say, in a different location, which is why it's been a lot quieter and why it might sound a bit different. Hopefully in due time, when we do have other people or when it's just me, if it ever is that case again, I'll be recording in this location. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, I guess, different sound. You don't have to hear the constant noise of cars and that.
Yeah.
Because I know that can be quite jarring, especially... I think it was one of the previous podcasts where like a lorry or whatever just went past and I don't think you could really hear me.
Yeah.
It happens, but that's that. I'm in a great house, but it's a bit of a downside. But yeah. If that's the case, I guess I'll end this podcast like I always do by saying I was the Angry Raccoon.
I'm the Indigenous Owl.
And we will see you on the next podcast.